Hello, hello. We are almost ready to start. I was opening this webinar just to check out at 1 minute before so that I can check that everything works well. I don't have any background music for you for now, but I think that it's almost 10 o'clock and it actually is 10 o'clock at the moment. And I can see that our name list is growing, so we have more and more participants all the time. So that's nice. And yesterday we got our 100 registrants full, so we closed down the link. So it was nice to know that this webinar is interesting for you. But yes, we can start our webinar. So welcome to MyStory, the Window of Opportunities webinar. My name is Saila Puukko. Maybe some of you have already met me in some events in previous years. And yes, I am representing MyStory project. I'm the project manager. And we have also our other team members here. So later on, I will also present them. Some of them are also on the stage today. And I am representing also Lapland University of Applied Sciences. So that's my role here. So welcome. And first of all, I want to present today's agenda. Now, of course, I have my opening, but then we will have our main speaker, Hanna Lakkala from Finland Futures Research Center, Turku University. She's speaking about foresight and the window of opportunity in a world after Corona. Hanna is also part of our project team, project coordinator, representing Turku University. And finally, we have Anja Thonhaugen from Halti Business Garden, Norway, and she is representing our support program, this MyStory support program, and she's also telling more about how to apply to this program. So I hope that you will have time to wait until also Anja's presentation and we'll hear more about that. Then after Hanna's and Anja's presentation, there is a question and answer, so you can send some questions to a chat box. Of course, anytime we will follow up and we try to answer on your questions when we have time. So we will try to keep this 1.5 hour time so that we need to be really stick with the timeline. First, I want to present the idea of MyStory. So maybe you have already heard and been part of Our Stories project in previous years. The Our Stories project ended last summer, and now we have MyStory as a continuation. But now we are more concentrated on promoting businesses along the Northern Lights route. Northern Lights route is the official tourism route which goes from Tornio-Haparanda and to the both sides of Finland and Sweden, and it actually ends to Tromsø. So it connects 3 countries, Finland, Sweden, and Norway. And this was the region also during Our Stories project, and it will be also here on MyStory. But now we are concentrating on supporting small-scale tourism companies to be more visible by storytelling as a marketing tool. So from our stories where we collected those rich culture heritage stories, now we concentrate more on supporting companies with different activities. And the main activities are the support program, which you will hear later on more, for selected companies. And there is this is targeted to companies in anywhere in the northern parts of Finland, Sweden, and Norway, not only in exactly along the Northern Lights route. We also have those open webinars, which we have now, and some seminars later on when we have this corona situation with history. So we also hope to have some physical events, open events. And then we also, one of the important part, which is also today is the vision work and the foresight process, which we also do with Hanna and Finland's Future Research Center in the beginning of this project. And we hope also to have some physical events concerning this later on. Digital pilots are also important, that we want to showcase a different kind of digital pilots and demonstrate how to do, for instance, augmented reality on this. So I hope that we could showcase some cost-effective ways to do new material. And here is our MyStory team, which I mentioned shortly. And of course, on the left side, myself, my picture, and then my colleague Inger Birkelund from Halti Business Garden. She is coordinating the project from the Norwegian side. We have already a long history with Inger from our Stories project. Then we have Anja Thonhaugen from the same organization from Norway, and she's also helping and working with Inger. Hanna, which I mentioned her already before, Ina Askonen from Bello Development, and she is part of the project coordination team, as Bello Development is our partner. And she is also working closely with companies in this region, Tornedalen. Päivi Hannivaara is representing the same organization as I am, Lapland University of Applied Sciences. She's located in Rovaniemi and representing Multidimensional Tourism Institute. So she has expertise on business and tourism both. So thank you and welcome once again. I want you to put down those links. We have our website. Actually, we have a new website, northernlightsroute.info. But I also want to remind you about the Our Stories info website. So Northern Lights Route info is now on the way. We haven't finalized it, so there's just a kind of a info site at the moment. And also remind you about our Facebook and Instagram to follow us on at Northern Lights Route. And to join our emailing list, you can find the link here. So these are the most important links, I think, at the very moment. But thank you, and I let Hanna to continue from here.
Thank you, Saila. Good morning, everybody. Huomenta, good morning. I will put the slides on here. So I'm happy to see so many participants from the region, from this cross-border region in today's webinar. And as Saila said, the topic is foresight and the window of opportunity in a world after Corona. So I hope that I can implement some futures thinking into your business and business development today. So just a couple of words about me. I'm a project manager and specialist at Finland Future Research Center, FFRC to put it short. We are part of Turku School of Economics, University of Turku. Besides that, I'm also an entrepreneur, so I have the entrepreneur perspective as well. I have my background in geography from actually Sweden, Umeå University. So I've been working as a futurist and sustainability expert in different sectors for the past 10 plus years in Latin America with ministries and companies and universities and so on. And I'm originally here from the border region, from Haparanda, Tornio. And actually, I just coincidentally moved back north after 20 years, just about a month ago. I'm currently based in Yli-Tornio, in my grandparents' old farm, until further notice, at least. So my key focus has, after all this international project outside of Europe, shifted back to north. The regional development, especially cross-border regional development, sustainable futures, so to say. My last project that I'm now ending, my last bigger Foresight project was in South America, related to the development of innovation environment. And there, of course, using Foresight tools and methods is one of the key issues. A short word about FFRC, Finland Futures Research Center. So we are the only academic research center for future studies and foresight in Nordic countries. We have a transdisciplinary approach. So our staff comes from various backgrounds. We have economists, geographers, social scientists, and so on. So we have very wide perspective when we look at these issues. And a core issue that we work with is sustainable development, sustainable futures, of course. We work both in Finland and in international context, in development and research projects with advisory services for governments, for regions, cities, companies, and different kinds of organizations in Finland and abroad. We are part of a lot of networks in Finland and globally. We are, for example, the permanent member of the Finnish government's Committee for the Future. We are involved in the Club of Rome, a high-level organization for sustainable development and future studies globally. We have a UNESCO chair in learning society and future of education, and so on.
Hanna, can I interrupt? We can't see the presentation.
Enable screen sharing. It got off. Can you see it now?
We can.
Okay. So, technology. Yes, so this is where we were. So we have a development and research project in future studies and foresight, globally and in Finland. So what's in it for me? Outline for today's webinar. As I mentioned earlier, what I really want you to take with you from this webinar is futures thinking, first and foremost. And futures thinking, it's rather than a tool, it's a way of thinking, forward-looking planning. And we're trying to make sense of the world after pandemic, looking at different future signals around us to make sense of it, to see what's actually going on around us. And of course, we are keeping tourism in the north in mind, but these tools and methods, futures thinking is of course applied to any field. We will talk about a couple of foresight tools. Just to let you know, there are probably 200 tools and methods in this field. So I did a lot of thinking and planning with some colleagues to think about what are the tools that I should even mention in 45-minute webinar. So obviously I had to plan this very well. We will talk about a couple of tools for forward-looking planning to actually see that there are many opportunities ahead of us. So that's what the tools can help us with. We will have a quick foresight session using a tool called Futures Wheel. And we will do, actually the first part of this webinar is an introduction to futures thinking and the tool itself. Then we will have a short, just 5 minutes, quick session where we want you to give all your ideas using this Futures Wheel. And we will leave the session open for the rest of the day, so you can even go back later to add things there. And I will also introduce a very simple tool. It's actually more of a platform, a Foresight radar, which will also help with the futures thinking. And then I will also shortly at the end mention about what the MyStory project can offer you in order to help you to be ready for the new circumstances. So we have this Foresight process we're planning to do after the summer. So please put your Foresight glasses on. This is what it's about. Use Jamboard, a Google tool. So please open your Google account already now. So it's faster for you then to access the Jamboard session that I will share with you when we get to that point. So, Foresight. What are we talking about when we talk about Foresight? This example is a webinar poll from a webinar, National Foresight, that was organized last month by my colleagues and some other organizations. And there, about 100 people working with Foresight were asked, when do you think that international travel will recover globally to the level of 2019? And 40% answered later than 25 or never. So in this situation, from the perspective of Foresight, you ask yourself, in a world like this, how should I develop my business? What are the opportunities that lies ahead in this scenario? In the same way, you can ask yourself, what if the borders would not be fully opened? This, for example, here in Torne Valley, where this has been very traumatic for us in a way, when first time in my life, the borders are closed this way. So what if the borders would not be fully opened? And what if the quarantine requirements globally will be here for the next 2 to 5 years, and so on? So we can ask ourselves these kind of questions. And what would it mean to travel industry in the region? What would it mean to your business? How should the sector or your business be developed in these different kinds of scenarios? So now we will do a quick poll. So Natalia will publish a poll there in the chat. You can see there, you should be able to see poll. So you can go there in the next to the text chat. This polls, and there you can answer a question. Let's see. Can you see it here? Safety, hygiene, space, and social interaction. So you can choose one here and submit vote. And in a few seconds, we should be able to see the results. I give you 5 more seconds, and then Natalia, please publish the results. Okay, can we see the results? Can Saila see the results? I didn't vote, so maybe that's why I don't see the results, but I guess everybody else can see the results.
I can see the, but I'm not a guest here, so I think that it's better to check from our visitors.
Yeah, so if somebody can tell the results, because I didn't vote, so I don't see them. 50 social distance, 30 safety. They were there, but they disappeared. Okay, so we will continue, and Natalia, you can check the results and write for us, because I think you can see them. And
I can say to you all, so the safety, hygiene, 30%, space as a personal distance, 56%, social interaction after enough isolation during the pandemic, 15%.
Okay, so number 2, that was the most important. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so in a situation like that, if that's the most important thing that tourists will want, what does it mean for tourism? How to prepare for that? So these were some, just to wake you up a little bit, to start thinking. These are some ways for a simple scenario thinking, looking at the possibilities, the possible developments around us. Then a couple of words about alternative futures. So basics of the futures thinking, foresight thinking. So usually how we human beings think about things is that we are in the now, and then there's one probable future we are heading at. But actually the core point in foresight is all the time to be aware that there are several alternative futures. Yes, there are some that in the now moment today look more probable than others, but there are also other futures that might be more desirable, and there are other futures that might be more avoidable. But all in all, these all different kinds of futures that we talk about when you think about foresight, they're all possible futures. And I think that thanks to Corona, it is now easier than ever for people, for us all, to imagine that the future may be different than what we thought is possible in this very moment. So this is about opening our minds of seeing the alternatives and not being stuck to the probable alternative. It's about observing the current situation. So we ask ourselves, in which direction are things developing? What kinds of trends and emerging phenomena affect us and are growing around us in this kind of situation? And last but not least, how can we take the advantage of them? So this Corona was a big surprise. You probably all by now heard about the term black swan or wild card. These futurist words have become popularized now with Corona, which is very interesting. And where do we go from here? That's what we all want to understand. What is going to happen? Where do we go? And what futurists are now asking is, what are the changes and developments that this situation will lead to? So we are looking for seeds of change around us. Something will change. What is it? What is the new normal? And we can say that future as we knew it is closing and a new one is opening. So we can ask ourselves, how did I see the future of tourism in the North, for example, before Corona? How do we see it now? And how do you see it after this webinar, after more futures thinking? And if we look at the history, we can see that all the big diseases, viruses have led to changes. It's been proved that the fall of the Roman Empire, or there's a theory that the fall of Roman Empire to the plug, and that the Black Death possibly resulted in the end of feudalism, and this was the start of the modern era in Europe. And we know that high percentage of the native Indian population in Americas died because of the European diseases. And there's also research showing that the Spanish flu was the start for the fall of the British Empire. So, of course, Corona will also have some impacts. Time will tell how big impacts it will have. But suddenly we understand that surprises and a different world is possible. So the decisions that governments take have taken the past weeks and will start taking the coming weeks and months will probably shape the world for the years to come. Healthcare, economy, politics, culture, and through all these, also tourism. And as the Norwegian anthropologist Thomas Hylland Eriksen has said, the coronavirus is a window enabling us to see alternative ways of organizing society. So the future as we saw it is closing and something new is opening. So why should I care about foresight? who does it? Everybody do it. It's done in global level. It's done at EU level. It's done at national level, regional, municipal levels. Companies do it for RD&I. We do it to a certain degree in personal level. And for example, WHO has been warning for virus X for a long time before it came. So it's about preparedness and planning for the future and about identifying opportunities. And as I said, for companies, this is the core thing, Foresight. It's for the research, development, and innovation. And it has been proved that companies who do Foresight, they're more resilient, so they are more prepared in times of crisis. And renewal and resilience, that is the best type of preparedness for surprises and for the future. And also, for example, Business Finland said in their May 6 webinar for tourism industry that companies should now prepare alternative plans and scenarios. And that is exactly what Foresight is. And travel industry is now focusing on reopening, of course, but it's important to keep in mind that travel will look very different for the years to come. And if we think that things will go back to 100% normal, it's not only a risk, but it's also a lost opportunity. Surely there are some things that will remain, but many things will change. And that's where we want to see the opportunities. So now I will prepare you to a horizon scanning. So looking at what's actually happening around us, some signals of changes around us. And this, I will ask you to get ready for the participatory session with the next slides that are coming. First, just a couple of terms, and then we start. So what are we looking at? We are looking at mega trends, large global trends that have lasted over a long time and will continue for the years to come. Here we talk about climate change, we talk about digitalization and technological advances. We talk about trends. For example, before Corona, trends in travel were weekend trips, short getaways, cheap flights. It is likely that Corona now breaks these trends, but new ones are born. And we'll talk about weak signals, signs of a new emerging phenomenon. And wild cards, typical term, as I mentioned, in Foresight, such as Corona was. So looking at these and how Corona affects them will help us understand the impacts and opportunities. First of all, less work, more remote working, maybe. The end of office, it could be, for example, Twitter now allows employees to work at home forever. And this is happening in companies all over the world. Will the same happen with education? A lot of kids have been going to school from home now. Maybe this also makes it more acceptable for kids to go to school on a distance in the future, at least for a couple of days a week or for weeks or so. So what if the whole families would be able to relocate for a longer period of time? Would this lead to a trend of staycation? What would this mean to tourism in North? We talk about technological advancements, but also a risk of losing democracy. So there will be more surveillance technology, less privacy maybe, less democracy maybe. So how is coronavirus affecting all this? Will there be more surveillance of travelers arriving and leaving? So digital transformation, we are taking a huge digital leap because of Corona. We're talking about services, education, work, entertainment, and so on. So we need to ask ourselves, what does this mean for tourism? What does it mean for businesses, their services, their marketing, their skills, and so on? So will our values change? Will there be maybe more work-life balance? There are some signs of this, maybe. In Switzerland, they fear that people will get used to the return to a simple life and that it's the end of the consumer society. In Japan, suicides declined because of Corona lockdown, because it lowered stress factors. So will our values change? In many countries, we have been able to see that people have rushed into national parks. Suddenly, the nature is even more important to us in this kind of situation. Will this lead to value changes? Disruptors have been disrupted by Corona. Airbnb, well, they need to rethink their business model maybe. And what does this then mean to hotels and other accommodation providers who may be better at ensuring safety and the feeling of safety for tourists? Will it push us to live more sustainably? Or will there be a new virus hitting us? It's a warning that worse pandemics are possible, and we need to protect our nature in order to stop these developments. And then these are, of course, big things that the travel industry is asking. When will air travel recover, or will it ever? Will Ryanair and other ultra-cheap budget flights disappear? Will there be health checks, quarantines, vaccination? When will the vaccination come? And so on. These are questions that we're asking ourselves, and that way we can prepare ourselves for different options to develop our future thinking. So those were some things that I have happened to see in newspapers, and I'm sure all of us have seen hundreds of this kind of headlines, and you have all kind of ideas in the back of your head that you may be able to share in our short co-creation session. So as it looks like right now, the pandemic has pushed at least certain mega trends and given birth to new or stronger trends. So what we already can see from experts, what I've seen and heard, some examples that show us that there are new trends, or some trends have become stronger, or for example, more meaningful travel, less business travel and more online meetings, more digital solutions, augmented reality, virtual reality, maybe virtual travel, sustainability, hygiene and safety. The growing target groups could be now the outdoor and nature and families groups. So people want maybe rather nature than cities, because cities are crowded and in nature there's more space. And this is of course something we have in the north. So less hit areas may be more attractive than, for example, Mediterranean. Could it be? So which of these are true in 1 year, in short term? Which of these will be true in 5 to 10 years? So when we talk about foresight, we talk about short-term and long-term changes. Of course, short-term changes are much more easier to see than long-term changes. So depends on what happens around us, and also depends on what we do about these things, if we take the advantage of it. Then what? So the pandemic has increased the speed of change of some megatrends. We can see that it has speeded up the change of digital leap, the adaptation of new technology and acceptability of technology as well, and of remote work and maybe remote schooling. It breaks trends and gives birth to new trends. So if the cheap flights and short trips are over, will it be replaced by longer stays and regional travel instead, and space and safety requirements? So now, as we have our foresight glasses, futures thinking glasses on, let's think about what it means for tourism in the north by using a tool called Futures Wheel. So now I will give you a short introduction to the method and how we do this. Then I will give you 5 minutes to just give your ideas. So Futures Wheel is a very typical tool used in foresight work in companies and organizations of different kinds. It is a very simple but can be very powerful tool when we get people from different organizations and sectors co-creating. So in the middle, we will have the initial change. And then in the first circle, you will write the first level impact. So the direct impact. I will show you an example soon. And then on the second circle, there's the secondary impact, and sometimes you may even have a tertiary impact of an event. So, and please keep a broad perspective when you're thinking about your ideas. Think about political, economic, social, technological, cultural, environmental aspects. This usually helps to make the thinking more broad. So we will have in the initial change in the middle, the corona impacts and opportunities for tourism in the north. So what can be directly related to this is it pushes the digital leap, which again leads to the possibility of more remote work, more remote school, virtual tourism, augmented reality, and so on. And that, of course, means that companies could invest or should invest in digital tools in this situation. And customers will be more open at absorbing this kind of tools. Remote school, remote work leads to longer stays. So Futures Wheel is a simple and practical tool. It helps with brainstorming the direct and indirect consequences of a decision or event in this case. And we used it a lot, actually, and we've been doing some online sessions with this as well. And usually, often people are divided into groups, especially if it's face-to-face, but here we will have a quick collective co-creation session. We will leave the session open, so you can even go there after this webinar, and we will then later review and organize the outputs, and they will be sent to you. So please remember that this is not an opinion poll, but this is experts, so you are encouraged to open thinking, to imagination, experimentation, innovative ideas, and even radical and surprising thoughts. So don't limit yourself. We will use blue, green, and yellow post-its. I will show you soon. So first level is blue post-its, and second level impacts are green, and if needed, third level impacts are yellow. And you will be anonymous when adding ideas, so don't be shy. Don't be afraid of not writing perfect English, and there are no wrong answers. And you may also comment others' posts. So this is how it will look like. I will share it to you soon, the link. Here you can add a post-it. You click this one. Then this opens, and you write your answer here. You choose the color of the post-it here, and then you save it. And then it's here. So I will now show you. Now we're here. I will show this in the chat. So if you have a Google account, you can now access this one. And please just start adding your ideas. There are no wrong answers. We will have 5 minutes, so it's 38 right now. And if you feel that the wheel disappears, then you have to click on the outside of the screen of the whiteboard. That's the only challenge with Jamboard, that the background picture may move. But just click with your mouse outside of the picture, and it gets back. And by the way, you can also write your ideas in the chat. If you find that this is not working for you, you're welcome to write your ideas in the chat. There you won't be anonymous, but just write your ideas in the chat as well if you want. That's totally fine. And we will then later on move the answers from the chat into the Futures Wheel. So that works perfectly as well. So 1 idea per post-it. You can comment other post-its, and there are no limitations, so use your imagination. It can be anything that it can be surprising, it can be expected, it can be anything related to this. So now I have an answer here in the chat as well, so please continue writing in the chat as well if you want. Yes, I can see a lot of things there coming. And later on, we will review them all and make a reviewed template, and we will email everything to you. So often what happens when we do these sessions in a group of different experts from different organizations, it often leads to even unexpected outcomes. Companies use this kind of tool also for the RDI sessions. So when they try to find new ideas, they do this kind of collective sessions that opens up people's minds. And these kind of sessions can lead to new ideas. Great, there's a lot of post-its there. Okay, I found more here in the chat. I will have the chat answers here as well. Okay, one last minute for now. So don't worry that it looks like a mess right now. We are going to make sense of it. Okay, and we're done. Okay, let's leave this for a while. As said, I will leave this here so you can revisit this later today. I will leave it open until 5 p.m. Finnish time, so 4 p.m. Swedish Norwegian time. So you can still go back here and give more input. And then after today, I will, with my colleagues, have a better look at this, and we will make more sense of this, and you will receive by email the final outputs of this session. Okay? So let's continue. So that was one very typical tool used in Foresight. It is an easy tool, so it doesn't need any Foresight expert actually to start doing this. I will end this with, or actually I will not end yet, but I will end this introduction of tools with another tool that is actually a digital platform. I will have to say that this is by a company I have no connections to this company, so this is not an advertisement, but they have, in this Corona situation, made a tool free of charge to everybody. And I think this tool is very interesting, and this is why, and it helps with your futures thinking. And it really opens up minds when you actually start digging into this tool. So this is why I wanted to introduce it here as well. It is called a visual foresight radar, and it is actually constantly being updated by futurists. So it is changing day by day a little bit as well when they're changing and adding more information. And these maps, this is not a futurist wheel, even if it looks a little bit the same. This maps the short and long-term drivers of change in this situation with Corona. And what are drivers of change? In Foresight, when we talk about drivers of change, they are, for example, developments causing change. So developments that can, for example, give birth to new trends, to new phenomena. And so I will quickly soon show you this, and you will have the link. I can put the link also in the chat. So you can, when you have time to review them, click the information in the boxes and think about how these drivers will affect travel industry and your business, both short and long term. What are the opportunities that may arise short and long term? So in the middle, actually I can take the wheel open. Here, I should have it here. So this is where I have the tool. So we have a lot of drivers of change here. And when you open them, my connection is slow now, it seems like. So this opens a lot of information. There's a lot of videos. Unfortunately, my connection is slow with this live stream webinar connection. But anyway, this is something that you can use when understanding the changes. It is a very useful tool. So I definitely recommend you to have a look at this. And this kind of tool is also helpful when you, for example, continue working with futures wheel. You have the initial shock here, so short-term drivers here. Then you have the recovery phase drivers that are phenomena that are disappearing or growing, or new ones that are born in the recovery phase of Corona. And then in the outer circle, there's the world after Corona. So this is a very powerful to opening up our minds and think about future developments. So now, with all this information, what to do with all this? I think the baseline is that I would encourage the organizations, companies to invest time to the evaluation of the impacts of this crisis. And you can use this horizon scanning information that we will send you from the outputs of the table. And you can combine with wide range of information. So you can even continue working on that information in your own organization. Think about the different alternative futures and how what possibilities are there. So you can ask yourself, what does this mean to my business? What do the different changes and scenarios, alternatives mean for your business, for services, for visibility, for skills, and so on? So we're talking about futures thinking. We're talking about short-term and long-term planning. So trying to identify continuously the impacts and opportunities. And oftentimes we think that organizations think that foresight needs to be something big and expensive. It doesn't have to be that. It's enough for a small company to have futures thinking in their planning work. You don't have to have thousands or tens of thousands of euros to start doing this. So that was that part, and I will just give a few words about the foresight process that we are planning to do in the MyStory project after the summer. And this is, of course, this time is a unique opportunity to redefine travel and build more sustainable, agile, and resilient industry, to borrow the words of World Economic Forum. So in the project funding application phase, so when we were last year working on the application, one of the core ideas was to do strategic cross-border regional planning for tourism sector stakeholders to help them. So a Foresight process focusing on regional vision and roadmap process. But now, with Corona and even after Corona, of course, it is more critical than ever to jointly plan and do foresight. And this way we can have an impact on our region and its tourism development and, of course, our businesses. So I hope that many of you will be interested to take part of this cross-border regional foresight process that we will do. It's all to help you. I think it can give you more tools, more perspectives to jointly develop tourism in this border region area. So the new normal does not have to be the old normal, and we can look at the positives when we look in the future, short and long term, and try to make sense of the changes and keeping an eye on the changes around us. Kiitos, tack. And my email is here if you have further questions. And by the way, you can email me in Finnish, Swedish, or Norwegian. I speak all those languages. I'm happy to answer any questions either now or later on by email. Thank you.
And now we have time for questions. If you have any questions, do and write to this chat box.
Yeah, so you can ask now or you can email me.
Yes.
I'll be happy to answer later as well. But I hope that this short webinar was helpful and you could open up your mind into futures thinking to start putting into your strategic planning. What do you think about Agenda 2030 and Johan Rockström's planetary boundaries theory? That's a very wide question. I mean, in this context of foresight, that is, of course, both Agenda 2030 and the planetary boundaries are, of course, one of the key things to keep in mind. I think actually those are part of foresight thinking. We can't ignore them. I think they just need to come into organizations' planning, and we can see that they're coming more and more. And it's a must. Actually, through my company, what I do is sustainability consultation. So I do corporate responsibility, and this is exactly what I try to tell to organizations, that they can't ignore responsibility and sustainable development. It is there, and they should actually consider it as foresight work. So planetary boundaries and Agenda 2030, that way I see it as a part of foresight work. It should be there. Yes, I will send you the link to the tool, sorry. So let's see. The link for the tool is here. So in this link, you can see Access Radar button. And when you choose the Access Radar button, you will get to the radar. And they have, when you open the radar, there's a short introduction to how to use the radar. So thank you from my part. I'm happy to answer questions by email, happy to discuss with anybody. Yeah, actually, I have to say this was my first kind of a bigger webinar or presentation in the North. Until now, I've done this more in an international context. Of course, Finland, Sweden, Norway is also international context, but for me, it's not, because I feel that the whole region is very much my home. So I'm quite excited to be part of this project, and I hope that many of you will join this. Yeah. So I think Anja maybe can continue from here to give more information.
Yeah, thank you. I'll share a presentation. So yeah, I'll go on with, oh, sorry. There. I'll start with telling you more about the business aspect of the project. So Saila's mentioned like overall the MyStory project, but I'll deep dive into the business part of it. So my name is Anja Thonhaugen. I work as a project manager at Storslett in Norway at Halti Business Garden. And we have the responsibility of the business part of the project, as mentioned. So we'll start with, we've called the business part of the project for the business support program. And I'll go into details about what businesses will get from joining the project, and also the aim of the project. So as it says here, MyStory is a Finnish, Norwegian, Swedish cooperation project that will focus on supporting small-scale tourism companies in becoming more visible by using storytelling as a marketing tool. And we'll do that through the following project activities. There will be 3 workshops lasting 2 days each, where we will go through the following themes. The first workshop will be about discovering and building a company's core story. So here, companies will get to know the theory of storytelling, why it's a powerful tool, and also information about how to develop their own stories. After the first workshop, companies will work with developing their story for their company, which we will take on to the next workshop, which is focusing on digital story production. So as the heading says, in this workshop, companies will learn how to digitalize the stories made. So they will get to know tools, and there will be expert speakers explaining this to the companies. Again, after the workshop, companies will work with their case, digitalizing their story, and then we move forward to the last workshop, which will focus on digital marketing and distribution. So this workshop will be about which digital marketing tools exist, which are the most powerful ones, and which should tourism companies in northern Norway, Finland, and Sweden use. The last, as you see, we've written consultation as well. So that means that in between the workshops, when companies works with the topics, they will get access to business development advisors, but they will also get access to experts within the various fields. And these will talk the company's languages. So we will have experts in Finland, Sweden, and Norway who can advise and assist when companies will work with the themes. So this is kind of the overall setting. We've also tried to visualize it a bit for you. So the project activities, as mentioned, the first workshop will be on building a company's core story. And this workshop will be at Storslett in Norway, where we will have keynote speakers, experts within the fields, explaining, as I said, the theory behind a company's core story and everything you need to know to develop a core story for a company. In between the workshops, companies will work with the topics from the workshop and making a story of their own. Next, it's about digital story production, and this workshop will be in May 2021 at Tornio in Finland. Again, after the workshop, companies will work with the theme, and the last workshop will be in October 2021, and it will be on digital marketing. We haven't decided the location specifically, but it will be in the area around Torne Valley. Throughout the project period, as Saila briefly mentioned in the introduction, there will be a series of webinars as well, specifically for tourism companies in the region. So it will be about everything from digital marketing to, of course, storytelling, to other relevant topics as and when they appear. So that's the activities. So what do companies actually get from joining the business support program? Companies will get competence in storytelling production as a branding tool, and they will get to produce a story for their company. They will get access to bespoke consultation for their individual case on their own language. They will get information about digital tools and platforms, as well as the most powerful digital marketing tools and how to use them. And they will get a cross-border network when meeting other people at the workshops. Also, the project will have various digital platforms that the companies will get visibility at. So what does it cost to participate in this? We've set the cost of participation to 300 euros per company, and this covers attendance at the 3 workshops, transportation to and from the workshops, and access to bespoke consultation. In addition to this, companies will need to spend time and resources in the project to get the most out of it. In Norway, we also have a deal with Innovation Norway that companies can get parts of the cost covered. So how can companies actually apply to take part in this? You will get on the screen now an Apply Now link, and this will take you to the application site. So it is a Google form with various questions that companies can answer. And based on the applications that comes in, 10 to 15 companies from each country will be selected. And the selection will be based on a number of criteria, such as size of companies. As mentioned in the beginning, we want to support small-scale tourism companies in the region. We will also make selection based on business area, because ideally we would want a variety of businesses, so it's good for networking purposes and the wholesome in the project. It's very important that we know that companies are motivated to be part of the project, and of course the intention to be take part in all project activities. So as I said, you will have gotten a link showing up on the screen now. Otherwise, we also have the link written in the bottom here. And the deadline to apply is 10th of June. We will also share the link afterwards and on our social medias. And yeah, Timo will put the link in the chat box as well. So that's a short summary of the business support program of MyStory. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them now. Otherwise, you can send them to me by email. And of course, if you know any companies that this will be relevant for, please share it. The aim is as mentioned initially, to support small-scale tourism companies in the region to become more visible among tourists. So yeah, that's what I had to say. Do you have anything to add, Saila? Or?
Yeah, thank you, Anja. I think that you have presented the support program and what the company can have from the process very well. But if there is any questions to Anja or myself about this support program, please do send questions via the chat box. There are a lot of chatting, and I try to collect also some questions arised during and after Hanna's presentation also, and I'm now collecting those. So I think that we could also go through those questions before we are ending our webinar. But basically, it seems when I'm looking the list of attendees that we have a lot of new faces here. So some of you, I can see that I have met you, but there are new names, and maybe you haven't heard about our stories or MyStory before. So that, of course, it might arise some questions. What is our stories and what is actually MyStory? I hope you got an idea, at least in some level, that what we are doing here. But the main thing here is that what we can offer for tourism companies in this region across the borders. And even we are working, the main partners are actually from Finland and Norway. We also will involve Swedish companies and stakeholders. So those organizations who are working with tourism industry, so that we are also welcoming all the participants from these 3 countries across the border. So I think that it's something important to underline, that it's like something you are welcome to join in. And of course, the main thing is for small scale companies, which are the main company, number of companies are in the region, micro companies. But that we are not limiting it to the certain size of the company either. So we are looking like when we are having this application, call for application, that we could have the motivated participants in this support program. I think that's a kind of a thing I wanted to say at this moment. And I think that there was actually collected for Hanna some questions also, which we have missed out. There was also some talking about what is happening with the Jamboard after this event, how we continue with that afterwards.
Yeah, so as said, we will keep the Jamboard open until 5 p.m. Finnish time today. After that, we will close it, and together with my colleague, we will review the results and make the output a more useful. Now we have a lot of ideas there, which is great. I just had a look at the wheel, Führer's wheel, a lot of notes there, which is great. And we will, after reviewing the outputs, they will be sent by email. I think we should have everybody's email. Is it true, Saila?
Yes, we have the registration list, and everyone who has allowed us to send some emails, we can send afterwards. Also informing other upcoming events and like that. But yes, we have.
Yeah. So the Jamboard will be open until 5 p.m. Finnish time, 4 p.m. Norwegian and Swedish time today. So you can still add your thoughts there. And once we have checked the results with my colleagues, we will send you the final outputs. And actually, something I wanted to add to link actually my webinar part to what Anja just talked about. These activities, they are related to storytelling, but also in the project we are working with digital parts as well. So this quite well actually responds to the needs of tourism. We have taken a digital leap in this time of Corona, and digital tools such as augmented reality, maybe virtual tourism even, different kind of digital tools have become and definitely are becoming more acceptable among people. So this is definitely a possibility for companies to develop those parts of their businesses. And there were some questions for me. Let's see.
Yes, there were at least Anastasia Di Constanzo is asking, are we considering differences in target cultures when talking about what to do in the future?
We're considering differences in target cultures when talking about what to do in the future. I'm not sure how to interpret this. But of course, one way, if we talk about culture in general, in the Führer's wheel, as I presented, you should always keep the PESTEC aspects in mind. So political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and cultural. So that way, yeah, anything that comes to your mind related to culture should also be there. So that's one answer. I'm not sure if that was the answer to your question. And of course, we are all products of our own culture. So whatever we do, we always wear the glasses of our own culture. So that's another way to look at that question. I meant that tourism will be different depending on the country people come from. For instance, Italy, people will be much more insecure in leaving the country after what happens. Yeah, of course, depends also on context. If we talk about tourism here, we're talking about the several target groups. If we talk about only Italian tourists, then yes, we need to have that focus and understand how the Italians in this situation and think. What is their perspective? There was another question. Foresighting has been used by entrepreneurs. I suppose in the current circumstances, it should be practiced with vigor. Yeah, especially, yeah, definitely. We've been talking a lot with my colleagues at the Führer's Research Center that this is actually the time where foresight and Führer's research is needed more than ever, because through this way of thinking, through futures thinking, start identifying some opportunities there in the middle of the chaos. So yeah, definitely. It's been used by entrepreneurs for a long time, but also different kinds of organization. But yeah, entrepreneurs have used it for several decades. So I definitely think that futures thinking here, that's the key to identifying opportunities in times of crisis. And as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, companies who do foresight, they are more resilient and agile companies. They are ready to change direction in times of crisis. I think I answered the questions that I found in the chat.
Yes, I think so. I also tried to follow up. And of course, if we have missed out something, maybe it's best to send an email. So I tried to look what was here on the chat box, but of course there are a lot of comments here, so it's sometimes difficult to see everything. There is Timo Lappalainen is chatting about cultural sustainability.
Yeah, it's one of the factors of sustainability. Okay.
Yeah, actually, and we have some time still left, so it's quite positive that we kept our time. But what I actually wanted to show you before we are ending this session is our Northern Lights route info website, and I can share my screen here. If you see this website, can you, Hanna, confirm?
website? No, I can't see it.
Okay.
Or I don't know if somebody else can.
Let me check.
Did you share the screen? No.
Yes.
What's happening? Yeah. Now we can see it.
Okay. So here I just wanted to show you this our On Progress website to find more information about the Northern Lights route. What is the project MyStory? What we are actually doing here? If there was something not still clear to you, you can also check this, and also we all update some news here, so you can also find material and news articles from this site. And of course, we are presenting our team, MyStory team, which we already started today, but you can see who we are and what kind of organizations we are representing. And actually, what we are now updating on the way is the experts, internal and later on even external experts on the support program. So we have so many different kind of experts involved already in this project that you can see those people here who can be also supporting the process during the actual support program started. So here you can see some of the faces and you can look more on your own time. And of course, to find the contact details here, so that if you have anything to email, call, so you are welcome to connect with us. And my role is the kind of a coordinative, so I'm the main responsible of the project. But if you have the Norwegian participants or you are from the Norwegian side, you are welcome to connect with Inger or Anja to speak with your own language. I'm not very good with the Norwegian. So this was my part. I think that reading also at the same time about the comments. Yes. And there might be, there are some comments from Päivi about the website content. And just to underline also that the websites here are on the way on building up the visual look design. And we are going to connect it with our already existing Our Stories website. But I think that now, if there is not any more questions, yes, Marit is asking, is the webinar link coming later to participants? And there is a recording automatically made end of this webinar. So I have this understood that there is for every registrant the link can be sent. So it will become after this session ending. And also to point out that we have a short survey for all of you who have participated in this. And I please do fill in the survey which you receive as an email. So we will have information about how we plan things, how you think our webinar went, and also for the future, so how we should design those events and webinars later on, what kind of topics and themes you are interested in concerning our project, which is quite much about storytelling, story design, digital marketing, and so on. So these themes are important to us, and we are going to have those webinars also later on in the future. So the aim is to have like regular basis open webinars from different teams which are connected to our project. And we are also open to gather some ideas and wishes on these webinar themes. So we are trying to look some expert speakers from outside and inside of our network, from inside of our countries, Finland, Sweden, and Norway, but also from Europe, for instance. So I think that that's all, and we are now wrapping up. And thank you for everyone to joining in. And I hope a nice day.
Thank you for my part, and please send me an email if you have further questions.
Same for me. Thank you.